I'm going to read a little bit about Karma Yoga as we move through the practice, just to give you some background, and hopefully some of these things are interesting to you that I share. I think it's nice to learn a little bit more about the broader picture of yoga and not just can we all get in a pose and how good we feel, although that's awesome to do. All right, so we're going to begin in a restorative crocodile. And I see Prashanti, you've joined. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you're here.
I did, sorry, joining late.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. We're just getting into our first position, and we're going to lay on in a prone position. So I have a blanket that is folded. You know, it's not rolled and it's not real flat. So it's got a couple of inches here, and I'm going to place it so it's going to go right underneath the hips. And you're going to have that blanket supported on the hip bones. So let me get into place so I can better show you how we're going to approach this. So coming into crocodile pose is generally just laying on the belly. But in a more restorative sense, we can put this little cushion right underneath the tips of the hip bones. Settle down so that the hips feel nice and even. Legs are just soft and elongated out off the back of the mat. Now, for the front part, very often what I see and what's taught is to have the head just lying on the folded hands. So you can bring the hands in front, fold the forehead down, and just release the weight of the head on the hands. I can't find a lot of comfort in that, as my head, I feel the weight of my head too much. So that is certainly one way to approach the front part of the body. Or you can take a small pillow and place it, like a throw pillow, place it near the front of the mat, and let your head rest on that pillow, just the forehead, so that the nose can go straight down and have some room to just just be in that space where you can breathe and your head is still supported. And you're trying to create as much of a neutral spine here as possible. So you don't want the head to crank up. You want it to be able to come down at a nice angle and just release in a neutral position. So if you do use the pillow method, then the hands can come out front. The hands could even come by your side. Or you can really put those arms wherever you can find some ease and create that space where you can sit quietly for a few minutes. All right. So just begin to settle down, and as you create that first shape, I am going to offer you a little bit of information about karma and karma yoga. So, according to the Vedanta, which is an ancient spiritual philosophy and one of the 6 schools of thought of Hinduism, there is an impurity in the mind called mala, M-A-L-A. Mala is the tendency to be motivated to act in the interest of self-gain. It is what drives somebody, it's what drives someone to try to be somebody in the sense of fame, respect, accreditation, wealth, or material success. So Vedanta, I think I'm saying that right. Vedanta, which is the ancient philosophy, suggests karma yoga for those who are of a busy, outgoing, or community-based nature. Karma yoga is the path of action. It is the intention woven within our actions, which perpetuates more actions and the ongoing state of our minds. When we act, we often do so with the underlying question, how will this benefit me? Expecting results or appreciation for our efforts. Karma yoga, however, suggests that we eliminate that attitude and act with an attitude of selfless service, without any anticipation of credit or result. In other words, we simply act for the delight and joy of being able to act, with no attachment to a particular outcome and no sense of, quote, me actually doing the action. According to the Bhagavad Gita, those who act in this way transcend the cycle of karma and the momentum of cause and effect that perpetuates the life situation and our perceived identity. This frees us from the bondage of suffering because there's no expectation of how things should or shouldn't be. There is only things as they are. When we have no expectation, there is peace. So, this idea of karma yoga should, perhaps ought to be a self-propelled force in our life to try to bring peace to ourselves and peace to others. So in this first pose now, in this crocodile, I'm going to offer a slight adjustment. And if this works for you, go for it. And if it doesn't, you can continue to stay in this traditional crocodile. So what I'm going to say is maybe bring your right leg out to the right and bring your knee so that it is coming at about a 90-degree angle to the body. So the knee is coming directly off the hip and you're opening that right leg out almost like it's a frog leg. And this is actually called half frog. So if that feels all right on your knee, then you're going to get an additional opening in the hip here, as well as just allowing the body to relax and fall into the mat and start to release and neutralize any tension that's running up and down the spine. So whether you have the half frog leg or you're in crocodile, just allow that breath to be easy and soft. Relax any gripping that happens in the glutes. A lot of times you're holding tension and you're engaging those muscles without even realizing it. Find a nice even breath. And then we're going to begin to, if you have the leg out to the side, bring that back on the right side. Take the left leg, meaning to come up on the forearms to facilitate this, but take the left leg, bring that left knee out in a direct line off of the left hip. And see if you can relax down and let that left hip open in the same manner. In tonight's practice, we're going to be considering the act of karma yoga toward ourselves. And by that I mean there's no expectation of a particular outcome or reward, but just acting for the good of your own mind, body, and soul. Again, relax the glutes. Just allow the legs to be heavy. And we'll just spend about another minute on this other side. Alright, if you have the left leg out, you can draw it back to center. Begin to press down into the forearms, bring them back up underneath. Press yourself all the way up. And we will get ready for our next change of pose. All right. So for our next shape, I'm going to take 2 blocks and place them in the back of the mat and create that nice little incline with a bolster or large pillow, whatever you're using. Hopefully something sturdy enough to hold you steady on that inclined plane. And then once that's in place, go ahead and have a secondary either blanket or pillow close by. Blanket would probably be better, just in case you need to make a further adjustment. So what we're going to do is come into a reclined hero's pose. So in hero's pose, generally we're sitting back on the feet, or the feet are flat out like this. And in this reclined version of the pose, you're going to start out in a regular hero's pose and then begin to walk the hands backwards until the back starts to recline on the bolster. So this is a supported version of this Supta Virasana. Now, if this is still too intense on your quads and you need to have a little less of a angle here, here's where you can take another blanket and build up that bolster a little bit higher so that when you release down, the angle that that you feel in the psoas and the hip flexor isn't quite as intense. Third option is, if this is too much to have both knees, you can also try and just do one knee at a time. So bending one leg back at a time, and then I'll give you a time when you can switch and bring both of them back. So there's some different options here. This is a deep hip flexor stretch. It's supporting the lower back, so that bolster should be coming right into the lower back. Once you're in this inclined position, just allow the shoulders to come open, and they should just, the hands can just fall on either side of the body. Your head is supported, spine is supported. And just begin to find your breath here. Try to let go of any tension that you feel in the feet and ankles. Let the knees be soft. Open the space between the jaw and the collarbone. Feel the throat be relaxed and open. And soften your jaw. Feel as if you are almost floating here and just supported by the bolster alone. the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, "Do your duty without concern to the fruit of it." Some people get confused with karma yoga as volunteer work or social work. The word karma means action, so karma yoga is the yoga of action or duty. So let's examine the phrase, doing your duty without any involvement of ego or attachment. Everyone has duties in life. Some duties are given to you. You don't have a choice. For example, your duty as a citizen, as a member of society, as a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister. But other duties you choose yourself. For example, your duties as an employer or as a friend. In karma yoga, it is important to prioritize your duties, to know what is most important and which duty you should give more importance to over others. It is important to realize that the highest duty that you can have is the duty toward yourself. This means that you should first take care of yourself and do what is good for you, and then, and only then, you can do what is good for others. So that's where we're working on tonight, is doing first for yourself. Whether you're a teacher, whether you are an employee, whether you're a wife, whether you're a son or a daughter, you have to be first caring for yourself. If you have one leg outstretched, then let's switch that leg and bring the other one out in front and draw the extended leg back up under in this supported hero's pose. Think about your own heart and let go of any attachment. Let go of the need to prove that this practice does X or Y or Z. Just be in the moment. Feel it, appreciate it. Release and let go. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Releasing out and softening with each exhalation. One more. Begin to bring yourself up by bringing your hands to either side of the feet, pressing all the way up. And let's just come forward. Come into a nice tabletop position as you come forward. Just leave the bolster there for a second. And let's just stretch out the back, pressing up into a nice cat stretch. Coming back to a neutral spine. Exhale, go into a cat stretch. Let the head just be heavy, hang down. Inhale to a neutral spine. And press once more back up into cat stretch. Just go around the world now that we're here, placing the weight of the body in a circular motion, feeling that support and weight move from hand to hand and knee to knee. And then whichever direction you've chosen to start with, next time you come forward, change the circle of your direction of the body. But just go slowly each time, feeling that weight and support shift from each corner of your table. And then come back to a neutral spine. All right, we're going to bring the knees out in front, curl the toes, and we're going to start to rise up, actually. We're going to come into a little bit of a standing pose for this next position. Now, this is kind of unusual for restorative, but there are a couple of restorative poses that we can do from a standing position. I'd like for you to get your 2 blocks, and we're going to place those blocks down in the front of the mat. Now, I'm going to place mine with the lower block in the shorter, flatter position and the taller block on top. I suggested that you bring a small towel. You don't have to use one. I just think that this is a little more comfortable if you can soften that top block a little bit, because what we're going to do is to come into a forward fold, and we're not going to stay in this as long as we stay in many of the other positions. It's only for about a minute or so. But the key is to move into it slowly so that you're in the right alignment. So start with your feet a little bit farther apart than hips distance. So you might have 3 or 4 fists in between your feet. So they're not quite out to the sides of the mat, maybe a couple inches in from each side. Let's inhale and draw the arms up. Let's just get a nice little stretch upward to begin. Come to the top of that inhalation, hold, and then as we exhale, we're going to hinge from the hip joint. So keeping the back a little bit flat here as we come forward, hinging from the hips and reaching down. Now, I don't want your head to reach for the block. I want your head to just drop wherever your head drops to, and see if your hands can reach, at least fingertips coming down to the mat. If your hands don't reach to the mat, then you may want to set this one out, because you need to be able to drop the head down. And what we're going to do is just drop the head down. You're going to allow the neck to just be loose, and the head is going to be nice and open, just releasing down in a weighted position. Now, here's where it gets tricky. I want you to take the blocks wherever they are. Now, if they're not high enough, you may want to build it up so that they're a little bit higher, because you want the head to be able to rest right on the top of the forehead, just below the hairline. So it's not the crown of the head, and it's not the forehead. It's right at that hairline place. So that hairline needs to just be able to rest on the block. You need to feel that your back is supported. Your legs are straight, so you are feeling a little bit of a hamstring stretch here, but nothing too extreme. And then if you feel okay, you can bring a hand to each elbow, which will then just allow the top part of the body to hang by itself. However, the blocks are coming up to support you. So it's a little bit of just finding that sweet spot between overstretching and maybe not getting enough stretch. But you want to feel supported. You know, this isn't one of the cushier restorative poses, but it is beneficial for helping to open the body. Your arms are just hanging loose. We're only going to stay in this about another 30 seconds. And if it's too much, if you don't feel comfortable, then please just come on out of it.
can always move on to the next pose. Just breathe and try to release down. All right, a couple more breaths. And then go ahead and bend the knees. Bring the hands down to the mat so you can support yourself. Keep those knees nice and bent. And draw yourself all the way up. Let's lift the arms up. Get that nice stretch once again. Make sure you don't feel too dizzy here. That can be a little dizzying coming up from such a long forward fold. Nice inhale. Let it out the mouth, cleansing breath. All right, you may even want to just get a little movement after that. Might feel good to just open up and release some of that tension. All right. Okay, we're going to come back down after that. That's a little bit of a tricky one, and it's hard to say, exactly how to come into it because everybody has different levels that they can go into that forward fold. But even if you do that on your own, I wouldn't suggest staying in it more than a minute, 2 minutes tops. But it does have its own benefits. So if you can do it a little bit at a time, it's not a bad thing to try. All right, so we're going to come into a wide leg forward fold, forward position, wide leg seat. Now, for this next one, I'm going to say to bring 2 blocks on either side of the knees. We're just going to do one leg at a time. So we're going to fold over one leg, and then we're going to fold over the other side. So I'm bringing blocks just a little bit on either side of the knees and the shins. And then, up to you, you can take a pillow, you can take your blanket and roll it so that it's kind of it's supported enough and it'll hold between the 2 blocks. You can use a bolster. You can always set the bolster here. So you can have something, the bolster will certainly work. It's just a little tall. Mine's a little bit tall for me. But if you have a cushier one, then it may, like yours, Vicki, may work a little bit better just like it is. Yeah. So we're just going to set up to start. Now, the key to this one, this is a deep opener for the back of the knees. It may not feel like it when we start, but that's where it's working. And the whole key to this is from the waist down, pretending like you have no, you don't have any movement whatsoever. You don't have any engagement. You have no muscles. You have nothing down there. So it's kind of hard to let go of everything that's in the lower body, but that's the key to making this work well. So to begin, you're going to set it up under the one leg. Gently turn the body to face right over that leg, and then start to walk the hands forward. Gradually, you can just round to the back. This doesn't have to be a straight, flat back. You can just round forward and start to come down. You can bring the hands on top of the bolster, or the hands can come on either side of the leg. And if you need those blocks to come up higher, then they can certainly come up as high as you need so that you're not rounding over much. As you come down and you begin to find that place where you can get the support for your head, once you're there, slightly tilt the body just slightly to the inner side of the knee. You'll feel that stretch a little bit more in the groin then, rather than the outside of the hamstring. So once you're there, begin to let go of whatever you're feeling in the knee, in the foot, Release the toes. Release any type of engagement in the quadricep. Gotta shut my window because there's a lot of noise outside. And just relax down. And you will start to feel this coming into the back of that straightened leg. And you will start to probably feel that behind the knee. The back of the knee is an often overlooked area of the body that it's very foreshortened because we do a lot of sitting, and those ligaments are often very, very tight in a foreshortened position. So when that happens, it can set up tightness that then starts to affect the rest of the knee. And the knee is such a sensitive area, and again, we just don't think about the back of the knee being the tight area, but often it can be very, very tight. So just find your breath, soften down a little bit more. Do another body scan and see if there's any place else that you're holding that you can soften and let go of. Always use your breath to come back to that feeling of being in a meditative state, a place where nothing else exists except the sensations that you're feeling at this moment. And then let's begin to walk the hands backwards, slowly rising back up to center. And turn and face center so you're in a neutral position. Was that okay? It's pretty intense, isn't it? It's a whole different mindset than these stretches that we normally do where we flex the foot and then we try to like stretch down and you feel it immediately. But with this one, it's sneaky and it opens you up in a way that you're not prepared for. But hopefully in a good way. All right, so we're going to come around to the other side. I started on my left, but whichever side you began on, just set it up again. All right, so feel your seat, feel neutral in the middle, and then turn your torso over that opposite leg. Begin to walk slowly forward. As you come down, it's natural to feel the engagement and the resistance in the leg. So just go slowly, micro inch by micro inch. If that's a word, that's probably not even a word. As you come down, ever so slightly shift your weight to the inside of the knee. Just a hair. And then once you're down, let go of the knee. Let go of all sensation and all control from the waist down. Just soften and release. And I'll read you a little bit more about these aspects of karma yoga. Karma yoga is all about doing your duty without thinking about yourself. The main purpose of karma yoga is to control and eventually let go of your ego. It is essential that in the practice of karma yoga that you do not involve your ego, because only then can you do it without attachment and desire. Sometimes a person thinks they need ego to perform better and to grow, but ego is like a cancer which always keeps growing. It makes us see what we want to see and stops us from seeing reality. It controls our perception and understanding. So there's a lot to unpack there, but it's definitely one of the components to keep in mind. Soften your breath, smooth out all the edges. Take another scan and make sure you haven't crept back in and sneakily started to engage a muscle here and there. And then let's begin to walk those hands back up. Come back to center. And you can remove the block, remove the props. And let's just bring those legs in. Maybe just windshield them, walk back and forth. Get a little movement back in to counter all that super duper yin type of stretching. Ooh. All right, let's see, where are we going to go next? Let's bring that bolster back into play. We're going to bring it right down the front of the mat. And since bring it between the knees. We actually can take the blocks if you like. There's a couple ways. You can either lay all the way down with that bolster straight on the mat, or if it feels better to you, you can create that incline once again. And we're going to go into Salamba Balasana, or supported child's pose. And this is probably one of the most restorative poses I can think of, because there's nothing more restorative than just holding on and hugging this bolster. It just makes you feel as if you are a small child again. Holding on to the support of someone who's caring for you. In this case, you're caring for yourself. Breathe into the lower back in this position. Drawing in the breath and imagining it coming up through the front part of the body and breathing it down, down, down through the back body, releasing through the tailbone into the earth. Breathing up through the front, circling around, down through the back, and over the lower back into the earth. Just imagining that cycle. Often what we visualize with that type of breathing or that type of exercise is what the body responds to and becomes reality. So you're opening up the blood vessels along the way,
by relaxing and mindfully releasing all of the tension that's causing the constriction to start with. Become even heavier. So feel as if your skin is liquid and smoothly melting into the mat. Share with you the last two aspects of karma yoga, which are attachment and expectation of reward. Practicing karma yoga means doing your duty without attachment. Whether you like your duty or not, you still do your best. You do this duty without any attachment. For example, if you are a teacher, you don't teach one student better than the other or because you like them more. You always perform your duty without any kind of attachment to the process or result. Likewise, when we do something, we rarely do it without expecting something back. But when you do something without the expectation of reward, the outcome of your action doesn't affect if and how you do your duty. You do it because it is your duty, not because it's something that you get out of it. So all of this means that in yoga, we're really always trying to understand and tap into the universality of the connection between all sentient beings. So when we create action that helps and is in the service of others, we really are performing yoga. We're living yoga. All right, begin to come up from this child's pose. You can press up through the hands. And once again, my time has crept up on me, and I had at least one other thing on my little lesson plan, but we're we're going to move toward finishing so that everyone can be done on time. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to suggest that we're going to combine actually my last pose and our Shavasana. So let's bring that blanket underneath. Actually, let's do this. Let's bring the bolster, not just the blanket. So I really wanted to get this in this evening. So we're going to bring the bolster right underneath. Sorry, sometimes I have to make this stuff up as I go along, so bear with me. But we're going to bring the hips up on top of the bolster. We're going into a supported bridge pose. So we had a lot of forward bending, and I just want to get a little bit of a support the other direction here to make sure we get the body balanced out. So in this supported bridge pose, I've got the bolster directly under the hips. Start with the feet and the knees bent to give yourself a little bit of support. And let's bring the hands to the belly. Just lightly resting on the belly, feeling the breath coming in and out.
We'll just stay here for about a minute or so, so we get at least a little bit of a counter stretch and make sure that back feels nice and happy when we're done. Find that nice, smooth, even breath. Feel it as it comes in and opens the lungs, fills the belly, fills your heart. And think about the action that you can take in your world and in your life that would be in service to others. Think about the action you can take towards yourself. Continuing to allow yourself to be nourished, to find ease, to be non-judgmental. All of these things will soften and open your own heart. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And then just engage the legs and lift up the hips just enough to create some room to press that bolster out of the way, and you can just pull it off to one side. Release the back all the way down. If you had the legs bent before, you can extend them now all the way down. Hands drop to either side of the hips. Feel your entire body here released. Becoming one with the earth. Open and yet soft. Let your breathing take you deeper into yourself. Take that inner journey. This is from the Bhagavad Gita. The one who sees inaction in the midst of action and action in the midst of action is wise and can act in the spirit of yoga. With no desire for success, no anxiety about failure, indifferent to results, this person burns up their action in the fire of wisdom. Surrendering all thoughts of outcome, unperturbed, self-reliant, this person does nothing at all, even when fully engaged in action. There is nothing this person expects, nothing that this person fears. Serene, free from possessions, untainted, acting with the body alone, content with whatever happens, unattached to pleasure or pain, success or failure, this person acts and is never bound by those actions. When a person has let go of attachments and is grounded in wisdom, everything this person does is an act of sacred joy. Begin to invite a deeper inhalation to the body, more meaningfully, more purposefully, and feel the energy of your space and place bring you back to the here and now. Offer a little movement to the fingers or toes. Wake up the hands and feet. Draw the energy back into the limbs. Maybe bring your legs in, hug your knees into the chest. Taking a nice, sweet, long breath and feel grateful for this act of self-nourishment and unattached kindness to yourself. As you're ready, roll to one side and come to close your practice in a seated position. Let's draw the arms up, 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 reaching forward to that source of all energy and divine and sacred matter. Bring the hands down to the heart center, drawing inward once again to the self. May this practice be one example of the beautiful benevolence you can give to yourself as well as others. May you go forward with the spirit of benevolence in the rest of your evening and beyond. Thank you so much for practicing this evening, and namaste. Thank you.